And welcome once more to the Magic Morning Wood with me, Clive Davis, and he do run, he do run. God,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Is your voice okay today, Clive? You're clearing your throat a bit there.
No, that was a theatrical effect.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm sure it's very dramatic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we've probably earned us a couple extra viewers at least.
Yes, absolutely.
And what a treat!
Wait. I heard this rumor that this podcast actually clears their throat on mic. So definitely, I need to listen to that one. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, if you heard that, you'd be like, what now? Ha! My ear is thirsty for that. And eyes also, because this is on YouTube now for a little bit, right? For the foreseeable future. And yeah, we're talking some films as usual. And the algorithm machine is on. The last film spoken of was In a Glass Cage, right? Which was a laugh riot. And so we're both going off of that. I'll be interested to see actually if it's a coincidence, the link between the two things, or if we both chose the same link. But so I went via Slugworth himself, Gunter Meisner, and I chose the 1982 French West German actually co-production Ace of Aces, or Las des As, I guess, in French, which sounds like that scene with Jennifer Connelly and that other girl in Requiem for a Dream. But it's not. It's a Jean-Paul Belmondo vehicle. So had you seen this by any chance before?
No, I had not.
No, I hadn't seen this before. If I had, I wouldn't have chosen it, to be honest with you. But the reason obviously the link is Gunter Meisner, but the reason I chose this was Jean-Paul Belmondo, who died a couple of years ago. And I don't know how up on your Belmondo you are. How familiar you are with Jean-Paul Belmondo?
Not at all. Yeah, but
okay.
Yeah.
And it's only slightly less than me, actually. I mean, I know who he was, and but it's interesting. The thing that interests me about Jean-Paul Belmondo, a couple of things is, number one, he was a huge international star, but for whatever reason, not in English-speaking markets, I think. He wasn't that big in the States. He wasn't that big in the UK, or I don't think in maybe in Quebecois way, maybe he has a following, I suppose.
Yeah, it was interesting because when I was watching this, I had that idea, which is that this guy, this whole picture is obviously a vehicle for this guy, right? And and he's kind of put up as like this, like obviously like a leading man, like it's it's like a very classic. This is a vehicle for our famous leading man kind of picture,
right?
But yeah, interestingly, but again, I didn't know anything about this guy, right? So and so yeah, so it was. Yeah, I'm kind of going off of what you were saying. Is that I you could tell just from the picture that that's what it was meant to be, despite the fact that we were completely unfamiliar with him. So
it's you can tell it's built around him, and
yeah.
And the other thing that interests me about him, that I've kind of become slowly more aware of in recent years, as you know, I'm a big fan of Hong Kong action cinema from Fu onwards and stuff, and as well as people like Buster Keaton and Douglas Fairbanks and stuff like that. John Belmondo was a huge influence on Jackie Chan. And in fact, of all the people who influenced Jackie Chan, he might even be the biggest influence, I think, because as evident from I mean, the thing is, this film he's 59 years old in this film, right? So he's not even in his prime. but he's doing some pretty outrageous stunts, and it's obviously him doing them as well, right?
Right.
He was famous for doing his own stunts, and over the past few years, I've seen a few more Belmondo pictures than I had before, and research, and he huge influence on Jackie Chan. Not so much just the doing your own stunts thing as well, but I think the fact that he's not, another thing he shares in common with Jackie Chan is he's not typical leading man material in terms of looks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he's not like really particularly handsome, but he obviously has the chops, and he definitely reminded me of like a little bit of like a Buster Keaton or like a Charlie Chaplin, in that he's just sort of like an everyman, but he seems to have obviously a lot of like charisma and physical comedy kind of chops.
Yeah, a lot of bravado about it, right? And
yeah,
and he's got that almost like a kind of slightly kind of ferally kind of look to him. Actually, he's like a jerk ears, and he's not typically good looking, in a different way from Jackie Chan, but he shares with Jackie Chan that Jackie Chan also isn't particularly, a good-looking fella, right?
Right.
So I think if you throw in the doing your own stunts thing and the not traditional leading man looks, and the comedy as well, right? The comedy and action kind of bumbling slapstick mix. That there's I would say of all the people who have fed into what Jackie does, I think Belmondo might be the biggest overall influence. So that's interesting to me. So I'm kind of interested to see more Belmondo's stuff. Also, he's the model for, if you know the Japanese anime Space Adventure Cobra, he's clearly the model for that. And I think it might be a little bit of him in Lupin the Third as well. So it's interesting that he does have this huge international influence, but just seems to have avoided English-speaking territories.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to see more, some more involved with Belmondo, and so in this one, it's it's a very, I would say it's safe to say it's probably inspired by the success of Raiders of the Lost Ark to a certain extent.
Well, yeah, you're making all the connections to all these other people, but I would say it reminded me a lot of Indiana Jones. It's sort of like fighting the Nazis, and the bravado, and the kind of bumbling in, like kind of this almost farcical kind of coincidences and stuff like that, right? With all that kind of happens, and so I just sort of had a adventure, but kind of comedy and fun, and kind of jokes, but lighthearted, and despite the fact you're fighting the Nazis and stuff like that, it was really like, it felt very Indiana Jones to me a little bit. So
yeah, and apparently a success, like apparently in France that year, second only to E.T. at the box office,
right?
Which is kind of interesting. So so very basically the story is Belmondo plays like a World War I era fighter pilot, right? You see him dog fighting at the beginning, and he's kind of looking his age a bit in those early. So by the time the 1930s rolls around, which is the majority of the film, so he should be 80 or something. But anyway,
well, they didn't have the de-aging technology that they have these days.
Right. So after this kind of prologue, and the idea is to set up that he's an old war hero, and also there's a bumbling private Hitler character, right, in the German army, and there's some kind of trousers falling down, humor, right? But then in the 1930s, he's like a boxing coach or boxing manager, right? He's the Olympic boxing team, and they're going to Berlin for the Berlin Olympics.
Well, but I think you have to also mention in the World War I, he also mentions that he's a boxer, and he crashes his plane,
right?
And he kind of almost befriends a German officer.
That's right.
Yes. Right. Yeah. So who like they're kind of boxing with each other, but then he ends up like saving the German's life, and so they end up having this sort of like, they're even though they're on the other sides, they become kind of friends almost, right? So
yes, I know the word you're trying to avoid, because I don't like it anyway, but let's just use it. It's frenemies, isn't it? How I dislike that word, but yes, they're frenemies, right? They're on different sides of the
Right.
And
I wasn't going to use that, but okay, sure.
oh, okay, good on you. I feel so ashamed now that I did. Yes, and so while they help a Jewish family escape over the border, basically to Austria, in scenes which, like, it's not the film's fault, but just immediately make you think of Sound of Music, right?
Yeah, right.
Out in the fields and the flowers and everything, and it's all very cartoonish, kind of knockabout fun, broad comedy, some very impressive stunt work, some sentimental bollocks with a little boy and a bear.
Yeah.
I did feel sorry for the bear's mother. They basically kidnapped them.
Yeah. That was like I just
funny.
finished watching, like, last week. I watched Cocaine Bear.
All right.
Yeah. And it just made me think about, like, like, they're all just like light, and like, and they basically just kidnapped this bear, and the mom's just like, hey, where the fuck you taking my son?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and Gunter Meisner is indeed in it as Hitler and Hitler's sister in drag.
And Angela, yes.
Yes, and that, boy, do they drag that joke out. Like, I thought, okay, there we go. I didn't expect that to actually be an important plot device in the last reel of the film.
Did Hitler actually have a sister? I don't know.
I didn't look it up, but
yeah, I didn't either. So
no. Yes, so directed by Gerard Auri. So clearly, I mean, so clearly Belmondo's had this long career, 60s, 70s, 80s. So at this point, I suppose if we're going to make if you're going to make the analogy with Jack Chan, right? This is his, like the films Jackie's making now, like that. What's that fucking one when he's riding a horse in New York? The new one, Riding High or something. I don't think it's called.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and all the post, kind of Rush Hour. He's earned his, he's done all the stuff, right? He's a proper, like, film star now, and he does the sentimentally kidsy stuff, right? So this is not necessarily the area of Belmondo that I'm interested in. With that in mind, I mean, it's okay. I mean, I don't know. It's all right. I mean, it didn't offend my sensibilities, but I won't be watching Ace of Aces again, I don't think, anytime soon. How did you get on with Ace of Aces, Ron?
I think I got along with it a little better than you did. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good. I mean, I'm a Indiana Jones fan. Just like I thought again, I could tell, it's like, oh, this is obviously the vehicle for this guy. I don't know who he is, but I could see why he was a big star, because he obviously has the charisma. It was fun. I mean, like, some of the humor was broader than others. Like when he, like, punches one guy and the fake teeth come out and the teeth go, "Heil Hitler!" Right? Like,
that did actually make me laugh.
But I was like, it felt a little bit out of character for the rest of the humor, and like the rest.
Yes, I know what you mean.
The rest of the humor. I mean, there's levels of humor, and the rest of the humor was all relatively kind of realistic. Whereas that one was like it felt a little out from left field in that one. But
there's another bit as well later on, which is straight. You never see this in live action, straight out of cartoon, where someone turns a sign round. So
the sign.
You only ever see that animated or like Benny Hill or something like that.
Yeah. But that one was a special because it had been accidentally turned around, and then they were, right. I'm going to turn this around, but it was actually going back to the right way, right? So,
right.
I don't know. I thought it was good fun. I had a lot of fun watching it. It was it surprised me. The beginning parts with him in the plane kind of reminded me of that movie we did before with the Robert Redford one.
Oh, The Great Waldo Pepper.
Yeah. So remember that, and like because he's like fully like up sitting up on like he was him in
Oh
that
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
paper airplane, like fully like like up and like waving his arms and stuff. Like it was like
Yeah.
holy crap! I can't believe people are on these like pieces of paper flying around. So yeah, so
And
it was
he's
impressive in
approaching
that way for like that
retirement.
one.
Retirement age as well. Most
Yeah,
people
yeah,
are
right,
going to
yeah,
the post office to collect their pension, but he's up there
right.
and on the outside of that speeding car and stuff during.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
quite
yeah,
good.
yeah,
The car chase is well done, and
yeah, yeah.
the other people as well, the people doing the motorcycle stunts, some of those look really quite dangerous as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought a lot of the stunts was good stuff work. I thought it was I'm always up for a good, like making fun of Hitler movie. So it's
Hmm.
it's yeah, so I thought it was fun. It was kind of harmless. It was inoffensive, I guess, for me anyway. But I don't
Right.
know, I thought it was good fun. I had a good time. It was everyone there was no it didn't drag. It kind of sped along, got all the beats, made me laugh a couple times. It was exciting, so it was fun, good watch. I enjoyed it.
Do you think it's a film your children would enjoy? Like
And
some, I don't know
I
how
don't know.
subtitles and stuff, but let's say, for
Yeah,
instance, if that wasn't an issue, like just
but my kids are a little bit picky about that kind of stuff, but it seemed like it would be like a family friendly movie
right,
anyway. So
right.
yeah, I think that yeah. So uh, yeah, I think I if they were fast enough to read the subtitles, I'd have no problem showing it to them. Yeah. So
Belmondo as well. He is charming, isn't he?
yeah,
You have to say he does have his appeal isn't a mystery, right? It's like, oh,
yeah.
okay, I get why people like this guy because there's something about it's a very what's the word I'm looking for? It's a very kind of straight up, two-fisted, kind of winking at the
Oh,
audience.
yeah, it's like the
And,
weekend at the camera, like the really
pretentious.
charismatic, confident,
Yeah,
like this is this
the guy
movie's
on the
for
boat.
me and about me. Like,
Yeah,
hey, like there wasn't like trying to be what it wasn't trying to be. It knew exactly what kind of movie it was, and they swung for the fences, and yeah, it was good fun. I think it achieved all the goals that it set out to achieve. I think so.
hmm.
It was
Yes, no, I agreed. Yes, it's just not so much my kind of thing. So yeah, but again, that's more my issue than the film.
right.
I think. Yeah,
Films issue. Yeah, so
yeah,
yeah, I like those types of things, like the straight up farces, like the misunderstandings and the coincidences and stuff like that. I like that kind of stuff. It's fun. So I had a good time.
hmm.
Yeah, I don't really have that much to say about it though, but
No,
I
no,
enjoyed it though.
no,
So
that'll do. I think. Yeah. So from ass to ass to your
that
choice,
stuff.
uh, Ron,
Yeah. All
and
right.
how did you arrive at this? I mean, is it a coincidence that Gunter Meisner is also in this, or was that your direct link as well?
I think that was the link. To be honest, I couldn't remember what my link was. To be honest, I did a search, but yeah, I think it was Gunter Meisner
Right.
was the link, like other Gunter
Slugworth
Meisner.
strikes again.
Yes, and also in another movie about Hitler, right? So of
Right.
a different sort. Yeah.
I was
Uh,
I was trying to prod you because I half hoping you might choose Willy Wonka, just
oh,
because I would one day like to talk about Willy Wonka with you. I think.
why?
That's a huge childhood favorite of mine. The
Oh,
original,
really?
the one with
I
Gene
just thought
Wilder.
Willy Wonka's been done. That's why I was kind of like I would pick it, but
Oh,
it didn't
okay.
seem.
Oh, do you think
Yeah,
it? Do you think it's talked to death? Do you think Willy Wonka is it
yeah,
something?
I'd say so. Yeah.
Okay, Ron is
I
a.
mean, it's kind of like an old classic. I'm sorry, my nose is like super running. I need to blow my nose. Can you just pause for a sec so I
Well, I
keep
can't
talking?
pause, but you just
I can't.
exit the frame, and no, I can't because then
Yeah,
no,
you just go to record. There's a pause.
I'll cut it out. How about that? There he is, blowing his nose. He's thoughtfully muted it for us. I don't think I'll cut this out. This is quite good. It's a good long blow he's having.
Okay, so I'm
Yeah,
back.
excellent. That'll be good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Anyway, that was my nose blow break.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, I believe it was through
Best bit of
Gunter
the show,
Meisner.
I think.
What's that?
Best bit of the show, I think.
Yeah, right there. Yes, it was. So I think I went through like a search of other Gunter Meisner movies, and then I was looking at also at the director of In a Glass Cage. I was looking at Agustí Villarronga movies, and I almost chose Moonchild.
Right, I was thinking of about that as well, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I actually downloaded a copy of it, and I was gonna choose Moonchild, but then I came across this one, and this one had Gunter Meisner and was also about Nazis. So I thought it just kind of had almost two links. And on top of that, I was reading the. I actually was not familiar with this movie. Anyway, it's called the Boys from Brazil, 1978.
Just to stop you there, did you watch Moonchild by any chance?
I didn't. No.
Okay, no, I haven't watched it myself yet. No. No. I was curious.
But I downloaded it and I had it in case. But I was like, I'll do either Moonchild, and then I found this one or The Boys from Brazil, and I kind of just waited to see which one I downloaded first. And but this one, I read the kind of the synopsis of this one, The Boys from Brazil, and I wasn't familiar with it. But but I should have been, because it's like a who's who of literally every great actor of the time all put together in this very bizarre movie. Which is I thought I had this, it was, I don't know, I was very confused by this movie. So it has, basically all of the the so-called greatest actors of all time in this movie, like Gregory Peck, Sir Laurence Olivier, James Mason, Lily Palmer, Uda Hagen, who's like the main acting teacher, and Steve Guttenberg.
Yes.
Which I love saying that cast list together. It's like Gregory Peck, Laurence Olivier, James Mason, Lily Palmer, Uda Hagen, and Steve Guttenberg, which I think is hilarious. But and Rosemary Harris, Denholm Elliott, just like crazy cast. Anne Mira, like everyone was in it.
Bruno Ganz. Linda Hayden, Francesca Gunter Meisner, Uta Hagen, which is
Uta Hagen.
She's not in.
But she's like for people of people like me, drama nerds. I mean, Uta Hagen is like she wrote like the definitive book on acting, right? So on improv anyway. So and so
do that much. She did a lot of stage work.
Not improv. That's feels well. But what's right?
Yeah, she did a lot of stage work, and more famous as a teacher but surprisingly less screen credits than you might think.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, she was more like an stage actress, right? So, but really famous for drama people. And so I was like, wow, like what a crazy cast, and in this very bizarre, ludicrous science fiction movie, which is like, I was like, of all the vehicles to have this collection of actors in it, why this one? It was really, I was so fascinated by this movie. It was really I thought it was really interesting. That
it's interesting. I can see why, because and I'm surprised to hear that you weren't familiar with it, because this is one of those films like when I was growing up seemed to like always be on fucking television.
Oh really? Yeah.
This film's kind of been around my consciousness like forever.
Okay.
And to the point, like, because the title, so yeah, it's about, we'll get to the plot synopsis, but it's basically about Nazis in South America. But obviously the title "The Boys from Brazil" wouldn't, if you didn't already make the connection, if you just heard the title, you wouldn't think, oh, that's a film of Nazis. But
I had no idea. I was basically, I did like a search of Gunter Meisner movies and other movies and movies about Nazis and stuff. Oh, okay, well here's one movie. Oh, okay, oh, the great cast. Oh, I've never heard of this movie. Oh, it's a sci-fi. Yeah. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Sounds interesting. So okay, I'll pick this one because I was just interested to see it. I wasn't familiar with it.
Just as an example of how it's always been around. It's just the fact that when I hear Boys from Brazil, I think of Nazis, if you see what I mean.
You think of Nazis, okay.
You wouldn't normally associate Nazis with those cluster of words, right? But,
I didn't. So, but when I read the synopsis and I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, anyway, it's 1978, directed by Franklin J. Schaffner, written by Ira Levin, who wrote the novel.
Well, the screenplay by Haywood Gould.
Screenplay by Haywood Gould, right?
Well,
And
you were mentioning why all these people in this film. I think it might have something to do with Franklin J. Schaffner was already, because he'd done Patton and Planet of the Apes, and so I think he was right up there as like one of those huge directorial names. And then Ira 11 as well. I remember reading like about half the novel and just not being overly impressed with it. Like it's fine, but I don't. Ira 11 seems to be one of those writers that really wrote those kind of books that for whatever reason really captured the zeitgeist and were huge bestsellers and were turned into movies and things like Rosemary's Baby and Stepford Wives and stuff. But then whenever I've actually sat down to read an Ira 11 book, it's always been it's fine. But
I'm getting the impression, or I get the impression that Stepford Wives and Rosemary's Baby were kind of like his. I don't know. I haven't read any of the novels, but I imagine they were like more the kind of the higher quality of his caliber of his movie of his books, and then sort of like they became really big hits. So like, okay, well, what else can we do? How about this book? And they sort of like they were just kind of going down his bibliography and then just grabbing whatever was next. And then everyone was like, "Oh, Ira 11, yeah, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do that kind of thing."
Well, but the thing is, in the case of this, though, this was adapted pretty quick. I think the book only came out like 2 years before. So,
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So, he was, I mean, almost. And just to get ahead of ourselves a little bit, it's interesting to compare, though, because you're coming at this from like, what the hell is this odd thing? But because I've had lots of years to digest it, it's one of those films I mentioned to you, off air that I was keen to reassess it because it's one of those films that's got a really good reputation. It's a really good reputation. Like I said, it was always on fucking television going on, and I never got on with it. So I was kind of curious to see if my opinion had changed and it was a better film or it was more interesting than I thought it was, many years ago. It's not.
It's not.
No, but I'm interested to see how. So what's the plot then?
Okay, basic plot. I need to summarize this book. So it's
spoilers, by the way.
Big spoilers. Yeah, spoilers. So Gregory Peck playing against type plays Dr. Joseph Mengele. But they pronounce it Mengele.
Playing against type is a very nice way of saying badly miscast, I think.
Well, apparently he caught a lot of shit for playing this part, and so
it's not.
I didn't think he was that bad. He was okay, but he just.
Yeah, but you're
so used to so used to like Atticus Finch, that now he's playing like basically the big Nazi.
I think it is kind of a slightly poor performance. It's a very scenery chewing. It's just a weird. Well, I understand why they.
I think since Laurence Olivier cheeses me a lot more. So, but.
Yeah, but so Laurence Olivier is playing like a Simon Wiesenthal type, right? He's like
he's Ezra Lieberman, who's like the great Nazi hunter, and he's kind of tracking down like all the Nazis that got away after the war.
Right.
And and his married to Lily Palmer, who also the two of them they kind of track down the Nazis together. And then there's James Mason, who plays Edward Sabert, who's like I don't know, works is sort of in the plot with Mengele, I guess, right? So part of the Nazi plot. So basically, as it sort of gradually unfolds, that there's some sort of like evil, sinister Nazi plot put into motion to clone Hitler, and so Joseph Mengele has taken
unlike those other thoroughly good-hearted Nazi plots.
yeah. This is more of a sinister one.
Yeah.
And so he's taken some skin cells and has figured out how to clone people, and has cloned Hitler 94 times, and has given the babies adopted to different families all over the world. This makes me laugh so much.
It is quite a loopy fucking.
That's such what a ludicrous idea. But anyway, that's neither here. But the thing that makes me laugh the most is that he was really, really concerned with making sure that he keeps the environmental factors that were important for making not Hitler develop into who he became. So, but apparently those environmental factors only consist of how old his parents were. and nothing else. Just that his mother was this age, his father was this age, and his father died when he was 65. That's the only environmental factor that seems to matter to these people. But this multi-million-dollar like sinister plot is so they had to find parents who wanted to adopt a child who were specifically this age, and then the plot, of course, involves around the dad has to die when he's 65, when the son is almost 14. So we have to go and kill all these dads to make sure that the dad dies at the right time. So because apparently that's the only factor that important that makes Hitler. That's it. It's nothing to do with being raised to be anti-Jew or like racism and they're like all over that. They're like in America and England, and they're all over. So of course the country doesn't matter. None of the politics matters. Only how old your parents are.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that matters.
It's one of those things. If it wasn't, it would be stupid. It would be offensive if it just wasn't so fucking stupid. Right?
Yeah.
It's funny. I wish I enjoyed, because I wish I had the same response to, because I know what you mean. It's one of those, even without that, just the whole idea taps into that really fantastic kind of trashy tabloid kind of because of course Mengele did flee to South America and just I think just drowned or something there or whatever. But of course there was this whole cottage industry of urban myths about what he was doing down there and when he was and that's kind of quite rich. That's kind of rich territory if you want to mine it to make a really, really trashy film. Like,
that's what I mean. I think
but this isn't story enough. That's the problem.
That's what I mean. The story is properly interesting enough to make it be kind of like it was almost like a black comedy. You can make it a kind of thing, or even as you said, like a trashy kind of low budget. Let's almost like the one. What's the guy we just did the last movie? Ace Free.
ACES.
Yeah. The guy. What's his name? Like the winking at the camera. Yeah, Belmondo. Yeah. So like that kind of thing, that kind of winking at the camera kind of thing. That would be fun. But by bringing in these like amazingly huge powerhouse acting figures and making like a really like serious act, it was like, what is this movie? Like what a bizarre vehicle to have this collection of people in, right? So
it is a little bit like getting Da Vinci in to paint your bathroom doors.
Yeah, exactly. yeah, that's a good analogy. Yeah, so I was like, this is what an interesting movie this is. I mean, it's not a very good movie. The story is just ludicrous, right? And even like you as you said, Gregory Peck, and even I'd say Laurence Olivier are both kind of like playing up to kind of chewing the scenery a little bit, kind of overacting a little bit, which is fine. I mean, they don't have to be like super serious all the time, whatever. But for the tone of the movie was shooting for something very serious and kind of like dramatic, but the content and the acting styles did not. So it was very much a head scratcher, this movie. But it was
funny that some of the opening scenes, like when they're in, because it's on like the border between Brazil and Paraguay, right? And there's like some scenes which are really quite impressive in terms of like there's like this makeshift like bullfighting ring made from like beached like ships on the beach, and I don't know if they just found that or if they like built it for the film, but things like that, you're like, wow, that's the production values there, that's amazing. Yeah, but then at the same time, what the fuck is this stupid ass story? And I really wish I enjoyed it as much as you did, because you are conceptually, you're right, it is a fascinating artifact, especially the fact that it was it's not like a forgotten movie. It's like it was a proper fucking hit, right?
Yeah.
Not just a hit with audiences. I mean, it was pretty well received. So it is a bit of a head scratcher. Like, fuck, was everyone doing that much cocaine in the 70s? Like, it's just, but the film's just a little bit too boring for me. It's not quite. It was just a smidgen more trashy. Like there were a few like Omen style deaths in it, like exploding heads or something. Or I think I might get on with it a bit more.
Yeah.
It's a bit dry, but obviously you don't think it's a good film either.
Well, it wasn't a good film, but I was fascinated the whole way through it. Like I was just riveted. Like, what is this movie? Like I was, I couldn't really look away. So I at least that's good for it. That I was, but it wasn't. It was more like a car crash. Like, what am I watching? What is this?
Does it surprise you as well that it wasn't critically panned? Because you would think it would be. It's the kind of film you can imagine critics would have had then sharpened their knives for it, right?
Yeah.
The fact that it was well received.
I think maybe in the 70s, I can maybe get, maybe, I don't know if it's the cocaine, but maybe just the culture then, it was more of like an acceptable thing. But I think now people must watch it with the same eyes I have now, which is like, what is this thing? So I think if this movie was done today, it would be just garbage. I think it would be like laughed out of the theaters or whatever. So, or off streaming. So,
but it's very well made garbage.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously like a huge production, huge cast, as I said. So it's just like I don't know. I think it was a really interesting movie. I thought, so it's not a. I mean, I guess the biggest problem is just the script. I guess, or I guess you could say, but but it was I found it fascinating though. So that's
No, I can see why you do, and yes, for me it's interesting at least to know about. I don't know if I necessarily want to go down the road of actually watching it all, but it's certainly worth noting that this film was made.
Yeah, I'm glad I stumbled across it because I'm glad I chose this over Moonchild because I was like, this sounds like an interesting movie, something I'd be interested to watch. But and I'm glad I did because I mean it wasn't good, but it definitely was interesting. Yeah, so I mean, and I guess that's all that really matters, I guess, right?
Yeah,
so, So
okay then. So there we go.
Good timing.
Similarly, kind of interesting to consider films. Then let's put it that way, and both with Gunter.
And Nazis.
Not our old
and Hitler
friend Tampon Gunter, of course. Luckily, from that Golden Gloves film, if you remember, Tampon Gunter. Yeah, he was less wholesome than Gunter Meisner.
And lots of
less wholesome than Hitler. That's pretty unwholesome. So we'll be riffing off of Boys from Brazil next time, I guess. So
I guess so.
Till then,
Ta-ta.
I'll run.